All right. Welcome back, everybody. I'm super excited for today's guest. Today we have Andreas. I'm going to screw this up. I think it's Kambanis. Is that right? Go ahead.
Yeah, I can say it with a really Greek accent. Kambanis.
Kambanis. Okay. All right. Perfect. And Andreas he's got a pretty cool lifestyle. He's actually down in Honduras right now, I believe. A couple days ago, he was Nicaragua or somewhere else. He's currently traveling to the bottom of the earth on a little expedition, and most of this or all of it or a portion of it is funded from a business he has that he's built up that we'll get really into and you learn all about it, but basically it's fairly hands-off for Andreas, and it's called London Cyclist, and you can visit that at londoncyclist.co.uk. And if you're listening to this on the podcast, we'll put a link on the website at moneypillow.com. So you can go and check out Andreas and all the stuff that we're going to mention. Anything we mention in this interview, we'll have a lot summarized there. So very cool. Andreas, are you with us?
Yep. Looking forward to it.
Awesome. Was that a proper intro? Did I screw it up? Or
No, that was good. That was spot on. All of this trip is funded by londoncyclist.co.uk. And it's a 18-month journey that I'm currently on from Vancouver to Antarctica.
18 months. Wow.
Yeah.
You started in Vancouver?
That's right. Yeah. Whenever one of the travelers asks us how long we're on the move for, and we say 18 months, and I think that's the record that anyone's ever heard so far.
Holy cow! Yeah, you should go 19 months just in case somebody else plans an 18-month trip, and you can hold that title.
It's an important title. It's what it's all about.
It is, right? Oh, that's great. So where have you been? You started in Toronto. You went through the States, I assume, down through California.
That's right, yeah, down the States, into Mexico. We spent a month in Mexico with a friend of ours out there, also called Sean, and did a little bit of surfing there. And then we've traveled down through El Salvador, into Guatemala, Belize, and now we're in Honduras.
Wow, how cool is that? And you know what's funny? I want to go, Sean doesn't know this yet, but I really want to go down there and surf with him. Was that a good time down in Mexico with him?
Yeah, it was absolutely fantastic. He's got a great location there, so it's down to the gym and then hit the swimming pool for a little bit and then get on with the work day. So it's perfect kind of, you've got Wi-Fi and waves there, everything you could possibly need.
Oh, that's great. All right, so let's talk a little bit about what has made this all possible for you, the London Cyclist site, and if you could just kind of rewind a little bit and tell us the story, I guess, if you would, behind the site, and what was your inspiration to start it, and kind of how it's taken off and whatnot.
Sure. So I was working a job in London, and it was a market research company. It really wasn't something that I was hugely interested in. At the time, I was kind of hearing about all these blogs that people were setting up. So I thought, well, I'd like to set one up too. And I ended up Googling around and looking for some information about cycling to work in London and some of the best bike locks, things like that. And I couldn't really find any information online, anything kind of that had been put into a nice, easy to follow format. So I thought, right, well, if no one's done it, I'm going to start a cycling blog. So I set it up merely as a hobby, and then went back to university for my final year of study. And during that year, I kind of started Googling around, and I found out a little bit about this whole making money online thing. And I came across a course called Online Profits by the guy that runs Daily Blog Tips. And I took the course. I think it was like $150 or $300 or something like that. And it kind of taught you all these different ways that are possible to make money online. And the one that caught my attention was creating your own ebooks. So that's the first thing I did, was I asked my audience, I did a quick survey, and I said, I was thinking about this idea. What do you guys think? And everyone was sort of overwhelmingly excited about it.
And hold on, when you said you asked your audience, where was this audience? Did you build something to build an audience?
Yeah, so I literally just started a cycling blog, and I only really had something like, 20 or 30 blog posts on there, so next to nothing, but it was getting quite a bit of traffic.
And these blog posts were like, great trails to ride in London, or what kind of blog content did you put
out? Just sort of typical things that kind of on the mind of cyclists, basically, like myself. So Like I mentioned, I think I talked about some of the blogs you get. I talked a little bit about safety tips, how to cycle safely, where's a good place to go cycling in London, that kind of thing. Just the very kind of basics that no one really seemed to be covering.
Got it. And you
Uh,
knew that because you had done some searching for these things and couldn't find anything.
exactly. Yeah,
Got it.
exactly. So
Okay. And then, so how,
I knew
let me
that
just, out of curiosity, because I think a lot of people are wondering, like, and I know it was probably still a small audience, but how did you even get any eyeballs on it at all? Were they all coming from Google, or did you start using Twitter or Facebook, or?
Yeah, I mean, I started using, so I mean, the SEO wasn't really something that I kind of actively did, but some of the titles just seemed to be things that people were searching for, and there wasn't a lot of competition for. So, that. And what I did really early on is I created this list of the top 50 cycling blogs, just because I was looking to find out there was doing it, necessarily competition, but just other blogs that I'd be interested in following. And once I'd created this list, I thought, wow, this might be useful to other people. So I literally just put it up on the blog and then emailed every single blog on that top 50 list. And something like 30 out of those 50 blogs linked back to the list. This is sort of the time before Twitter.
Oh my God.
So
And
people
then,
actually posted up a post about it. And that kind of gave it the website its initial Google traffic kind of thing, the Google juice, as they say.
yeah. Well, and there's a big, for those of you guys that don't know, there's a real powerful strategy that if you can get authority sites, which are probably sounds like you had a lot of authority sites in the cycling industry, linking your site, then that tells Google your site must be more important. So for a lot of search terms, you'll show up for things that you have on your site. You'll show up really high because you have all these other authority sites pointing links back to your site. So I can see that. So, and did you say some of them actually wrote blog posts and sent traffic as well?
That's right. Yeah. So quite a few of them just wrote a post just saying, "Oh, this really useful list has gone up there, and I've been featured at number I don't know 25 or whatever it is." So people were kind of quite excited to share that with their audience because I don't think anyone had really done that before.
Oh, very
So that was
cool.
so that's what put me on the map, and that's how my and from there, I just did a survey using, I can't even remember what company I used at the time. And I had a bunch of questions on there, and I was thinking about two different products, and people overwhelmingly said, no, definitely create a product that shows people great places to go cycling in London. And when I created this product, I was the kind of first person to ever create a digital guide to great places to go cycling in London. So it was kind of breaking the mold of all these old guidebooks.
Oh, very cool. And this guide had like, okay, this is a 26-mile run. Here it is on a map, a ride, and here it is on a map. And it's cool because you get to go by this river, you get to see that house, you get to see, this building kind of thing. Or
Yeah, exactly. So I just did a bunch, bought myself every book I could get hold of on London, and then started plotting out interesting routes to the city. So, for example, one of them is a kind of quirky ride through London, so sites that most tourists will never see, such as this big tank that's been left there, and everyone does graffiti on it, and the graffiti changes every few weeks, and that kind of thing. So these are kind of typical sites that people don't really see. So I really wanted to go out and research this, and it was the most fun thing ever was putting together this product. Because I found out so much about the city of London that I never knew.
sure.
And
Oh,
I
how cool.
so what I did then, I also had a little look at a guy called Jeff Walker and his product launch formula. And what he talks about a lot in there is how you need to get people excited behind a product launch that you're going to do. So I started dropping little hints about what was coming. I started giving away a couple of rides for get a sense book. So there was this kind of excitement building in my audience that this product was coming and they couldn't yet get hold of it. And then I actually had a flight to Brazil that I had to catch because I was going off to have a little couple of weeks holiday with a couple of friends of mine. And I hit the launch button pretty much just as I was kind of leaving my house. I chucked everything in a bag, hit the launch button, ran off to the airport. And then I had my big long flight to Brazil, landed in Brazil, and I got my phone out because I was so desperate to find out whether I'd actually been successful or not. And I turned on the roaming connection, and there was this big flood of emails in my inbox. So I knew there and then that this internet marketing thing definitely works.
And when you
And I
say
was
flood of emails, were these people going, "Hey, I want to buy your book," or were they receipts
these
from purchases?
Yeah, it was. I was using a service called eJunkie, which I still use, and there was just a flood of emails with the order kind of details of the customer, and all the money was going straight into my PayPal, and that funded my entire trip to Brazil.
Holy cow! Holy cow! So, how many? I mean, just out of curiosity, when you landed, how much in sales had you done? Like $500?
I can't remember. I think in the first month I did about £1,000, which would have been roughly $1,400, I guess,
It's
$1,500.
probably more like $4,000 with the way our currency is right now. Um, but regardless,
Yeah,
that's a joke, but that's still a great amount. And
and yeah, and I mean to this day, something that I created, what is now 3 years ago, still earns me sort of $500, and that's without doing anything. So
$500 a month,
it,
it just sells.
yeah, so I haven't touched that in about 2 years. So that's kind of a prime example of the kind of passive income that you can get.
Right. Wow, man, that's funny. I actually had a real similar story, and I just took mine off the market because some of the information was outdated, and I felt guilty selling it. But prior to doing that, it was earning $300 to $500 a month consistently, and just it's kind of awesome. I had
Yeah,
Andreas say the same story, except I went golfing, and
yeah,
it was the most depressing thing because I launched mine, went golfing, and I just kind of needed a break. So I was gonna take. I've been working really hard for weeks to get it done, and went golfing, and I did like 4 sales while I was golfing, so I just felt like a total failure. And when I got home, I opened up the computer, and it occurred to me that I didn't have the PayPal notifications going on. So whenever somebody bought through PayPal, I didn't have the emails set to be sent. So I thought,
yeah.
oh, I better check. Maybe I got a few through there. And I logged into there, and I had like 19 sales through PayPal. And this was on like $100 product. And my ebook, it was crazy, but I charged $100 back then. It came with a little bit more than just a book, but all digital
Yeah,
stuff. And so I just went from feeling like a total failure to like, oh my God, I just made over $2,000 today. This definitely works. Yeah,
yeah. It's an incredible feeling.
that's hilarious.
It's an
So what
incredible
happened? So what happened from there? So you have your blog running. You're building an audience.
feeling.
You
Yeah,
launch this ebook that nets you a few $1,000s a month. It sounds like, or $1,500 a
mm,
month roughly, and
yeah.
that obviously probably is not enough to fund traveling the world. So you've grown from there.
That's right. Yeah. So I started there, and then a few months later, I had an idea for another product. And what I realized is that there wasn't really a very good guide out there if you wanted to maintain your bike yourself. There was, a ton of books out there, and there was a ton of YouTube videos and whatnot, but no one really had put it together in a really nice, simple to follow way. So I was getting infuriated by this while I was trying to teach myself how to maintain my bike. So I thought this is the next big opportunity. And at the time, it was all these apps were coming. Was a big sort of talk of this, app economy, and the iPhone 3GS was out, and I thought, right, well, this is the perfect thing to turn into an iPhone app. So I contacted a bunch of people that had made apps before in the cycling niche, and I said, look, I've got this idea. I'm creating the content for it, and I'm looking to partner up with the developer. And one of the guys said, yeah, love the idea. Let's partner up. Let's do it. We did a 50-50 split. And I just literally, it's just pictures of me in my backyard repairing my bike.
Step by step.
It couldn't look more ghetto if I tried. and and put together these guides, made it as simple to follow as possible. Tried to explain it in a way that someone that's never touched a bike before would be able to follow it. Worked with the developer, we got the app launched, and literally the only people that I promoted to was my audience. When I say my audience, I had this newsletter by then that had about 1,500 people to 2,000 people on there.
In
And
newsletter or email list terms, would you agree that's a pretty tiny list?
that's tiny, yeah, that's tiny compared to some of the figures that some people quote.
Yeah.
So very, very small list. And again, same tactic. I was just getting people slowly excited and kind of getting them interested in the app. And then I hit the launch button, sent the email out, was constantly checking, and throughout the day, the app just kept rising through the ranking store. Uh, Reached number one in the sports, and then Apple were sort of, I guess they looked at the app and thought, well, what the hell is this new thing that's suddenly topping the App Store? So they featured it, and then that sent the download count through the roof. And in the first month alone, we sort of did some kind of revenue in the range of $10,000.
Did you cut up a little bit? Did you say $10,000?
That's right, yeah, $10,000 in the first month, and then again in the second month as well.
Holy cow!
Yeah,
and this is your little ghetto pictures of
yeah, just me in my pajamas in the garden.
Oh, it's amazing. That's amazing. And I'm actually shocked that Apple featured it, but it must not be as bad as what you're describing.
No. I mean, it was the app was just really well loved, just because I think it was just so easy to follow, and no one had ever done this before. So it was just this super useful app. So people just fell in love with it, I guess. I mean, it didn't have it didn't have any of these professional elements. It didn't have a cutting edge design or some cutting edge features or anything like that. It was so bloody used for people.
Got it. So what was the name of the app?
Bike Doctor.
I see it right here. $5 in the App Store.
That's the one. Yeah, it's got a bunch of 5-star reviews, which I'm quite proud about.
Yeah. Yeah. Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
And kind of I thought this is something that's very easily replicable. So since then, I've launched another 2 apps, and they both did the same thing, where they, went straight to the top of the sports category. So it's quite a fun game to play to play around with apps. And
What were the
like
what were the other 2 apps?
The other 2 again were for cyclists, bike shops. Did all the bike shops in London, and the other one was called London Bike Rides, and it was an adaptation of the ebook into an app.
Got it.
And they didn't do as well as Bike Doctor. That was kind of the one that was the really big seller, but they still managed to top of the App Store. So I was pretty pleased with that as well.
Oh, that's awesome. And there must be some sort of recipe, like once you develop one app that gets featured, they really pay attention to anything else you put out or something.
Yeah, perhaps that's what it is. I don't kind of the tactics that I talked about before, where you just kind of get people excited beforehand, and then when it comes immediately, you've got a big group of people that will just download it instantly, because there's a lot to be said with that you've got to promote your app when it first comes out. And since then, I've done I've taught a few other people the tactics to do that. But yeah, the App Store is just an amazing way to tap into really big markets, and the potential there's huge.
Yeah, for sure. That's we've got some. I don't know when this will be launched, but we've done several interviews with iPhone app developers, and they're some of the more amazing ones, I think, because it's such a crazy model. I mean, there's probably not much customer support. There's probably a
Yeah.
I mean, what's your refund rate like on an app, out of curiosity?
It's so low that I don't even know. It'd be less than, it's 0.1% or something.
Less than 1/100%?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know anybody who's ever refunded an app purchase.
Yeah.
It's interesting. And, no customer support, no refunds, and you wouldn't even have to handle anything on refunds. Apple would probably automate all that. So it's just a great, as far as development goes, it sounds like from the apps you built, once they're built and tested, they work. There's no real development because there's not much changing. It's just static pages or whatnot. So
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's all pretty. You can you can spend to upgrade the app, and I have over the years, but we're not talking kind of major sums of money compared to the return on investment, basically.
Very cool. So at this point now, where are you in the stage of your business kind of developing? How long did it take you from the time you got the concept to start the blog and then write your ebook? What was that time frame like? A year?
Yeah, so I started the blog. Left it, didn't do anything with it for a year. but it was still kind of just getting a little bit of traffic through this post. But I wasn't adding anything new. I wasn't staying on top of it or anything like that. So I would say that it took me 4 solid months of work before I was starting to earn, pretty decently.
Got it. Okay, so all right, that's interesting. And were you earning revenue before you launched the book with doing affiliate promotions where you were promoting other products?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, tiny. I was making a little bit of money through Amazon because I was talking about some products like bike locks and things like that, and then I'd link to the Amazon product, and then if someone would go through my link and buy, then I'd make a small percentage through there, something around 6 or 7%. So I was making a little bit of money through there, but it was the ebook that really launched things for my online business.
Got it. Got it. Okay. So that, so you went from, where are we? I mean, that ebook, did it launch 6 months, a year from the time you got the idea to start the blog and actually started it?
Yeah, that launched. That was 4 months in, so it took me a month of
So
very
four
solid.
months in. Wow.
Yeah,
Okay. So that plus the little affiliate promotions you were doing with Amazon and other stuff. Let's look at the 6 month mark. Are you earning
yeah,
$1,000 or a
yeah.
thousand
By then
pounds a
I
month?
was making about $2,000 a month.
Okay. All right. Wow.
Uh,
So that's starting to really pick up. And then at what point did the app come along?
that was probably another. That probably took me another four for that. So talking about 8 months in, about 9 months in.
Got it. Okay. And then so, and that, I mean, that in itself. So the first year you're over $30,000 in income, 30 to 40, somewhere in there. Is that about right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And you've built, I mean, God, so a lot of people go to college and to get jobs that make 30 to $40,000 a year. And what do you think from a work standpoint? If you look back on that first year, from the blog, getting all that set up, writing the blog posts, building the iPhone app, working on the ebook, were you working 10 hours a week, 40 hours a week, 80 hours a week? What was that like? Like, in all honesty, looking back on that.
I was working what I would describe as a very minimum amount. If I look back, I think I probably should have worked harder, to be honest. But at the time, I was going out with this fantastic girl that I'd met in Argentina, where I'd visited, and so I was flying back and forward with France, where she was from, just having fun really and just enjoying myself. And so I didn't really put in that many hours into the website. I dread to think what would happen if I'd have actually worked really hard on it.
Yeah, that's great. All right. So, and how long ago was this? What's the time frame like?
Yeah, so that's really the first 12 months.
Okay. And that was, how long ago was that? Where are we in relation to where we
So
are now?
now we're talking, that would have been 2 years ago now.
2 years ago. Okay. And then, so in the second year, you decided to launch a couple more iPhone apps.
That's right, yeah.
Your ebook is probably still selling fairly well, and the other one is cooled down but still generating revenue. And then the
Yep.
blog is generating revenue. And then, what did the next year look like?
Yeah, so I just kept building things really. The income kind of stayed, I think it was roughly about $4,000 a month I was making,
Okay.
which was, enough to get by in London and enough to travel. And I just explored some opportunity. I looked into creating an online course, an online bike maintenance course with videos and whatnot. So that was a big project. And that, again, that did something like $8,000 in revenue when that launched as well. So that was pretty successful.
Does
I
that
just
still
really
go on to
kept,
sell to this day?
no, I've stopped selling that because I've been working on some other projects, so I've not really been focusing on that.
Got it. Okay.
But yeah, the site, I just kept building the site really. And what I did, I guess the most recent change is that I started to outsource some of the work. So I actually hired a team of part-time writers that now create all the content for the website. So that was the kind of the single biggest task, was creating all this content continuously, because it's a blog and you got to keep it updated. So I found a team of interested in helping me out with that. And now, whenever there's some new article that needs written, I can hand it out to them.
Got it.
So
So
that was
do you have like a how does that work? Do you have three guys that write an article, two articles a week, or
Yeah, I've got four guys. I've got one guy that just does my product reviews. I've got another girl that does all the product reviews for female-based products, and I've got other writers that cover kind of the news and so forth. And so that was a really big change for me because I no longer had to be on top of the blog on a kind of daily basis. Freed up my time to do the trip that I'm doing now.
right? Yeah. And so do you have somebody project managing that, or are you project managing it?
No, I stay on top of what the guys are doing, and I kind of still what you might call an editor or whatever. So I still kind of review their work and post it online. But it's taken away the sort of single biggest task in my business, basically.
Yeah, because I can imagine. I mean, what do you do? Do you allow them creativity, like just to write about whatever they want to write about, or do you give them a schedule of things to write about?
Definitely, I do both. I sometimes there's things that I really want covered. Other times, I'll just say to, whatever you want to write about, whatever you feel strongly about. And we pump out about 5 blog posts a week, and blogs has ever been. And if anything, I think I think you spend a lot of person that can do this. I'm the only guy that knows about this topic, that topic, but there comes a point when you can't really be doing everything yourself anymore. So once I kind of relinquished that control, I actually found that they probably write better content than I ever could.
Isn't that funny? I hear that time and time again. I've experienced it myself when people usually have a hard time letting go of certain tasks because they think nobody else can do it as good as they can or just won't get done to their liking, and they end up doing it. Oftentimes, either right away or with just a little bit of feedback for whoever's doing those tasks, people find that they're not only are they doing a fine job, they're actually doing better, and it's getting done without them having to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's just 100% worth it trying to get a team in there as early as possible, trying to live some of the things that are the most time consuming in your business. I to in and get involved myself, but most of it now is done by the writers. And I think for me it was something that my friends kept telling me, oh, you really should get a team of writers together, and I just kept putting it off and off and off. And I'm so glad I eventually got around to doing it.
Yeah, it's funny. My business partner Lewis Howes has the same thing for one of his sports blog, and then he actually hired somebody to manage all the writers. And
Yeah.
and that person
I think
is
that's
also
the next step.
yeah. So he's in charge of all the writers, and he's also in charge of monetization and like monetizing the blog. So Lewis, met with him and just said, "This is how I monetize it. These are the ways I've done it in the past. Tell me what you're going to do going forward." And he shares a percentage of the revenue, I believe, and then pays him a salary of like $500 or $1,000 a month to manage all of the writers and find new writers and all that stuff.
Nice.
So,
Yeah, it's so effective, and it's meant that I can be out here, even if we don't have internet for a couple of days, which is one of the classic problems of your business remotely. Then I still know that things are ticking over and that things are still happening without me needing to be on top of it. So I've got a guy responding to customer emails and things like that as well. I've actually got my sister doing.
that's awesome. Yeah, we find that a lot too. People use family, and it's someone you can trust as someone and then also gives them the ability to earn a revenue. So that's
Yeah.
great. Yeah.
Yeah, get experience and earn money. Oh,
Yeah. So, all right. So
And then
go ahead.
yeah, and so I was just going to say that then the future direction of my business is to get more involved in apps, and I'm currently building an app platform by that can be used kind of repetitively. So once repeatedly. So once the app platform's been coded, then I can kind of use it and adapt it for different apps. And I found a fantastic developer to work on that with, who's based in the UK. And so I think that's the direction that things are going to go from now on. I'm just going to keep releasing new apps in the cycling niche and beyond that as well.
Oh, that's amazing. So with that said, sounds like you're building a framework that you can then build upon other apps
Yeah,
upon? Or?
exactly. So it's very similar to Bike Doctor. So it's just a framework for showing, guides basically, such as, bike maintenance guides and things like that. But it can be used for any kind of guide. So um, I think that's just something that's very, I don't know. It's just apps are just an incredibly exciting area to work on, and I know you've worked on a few apps yourself, and it's just really, really rewarding when you just see those download figures come in and you get all these 5-star reviews from people. It's just incredible feeling.
Yeah, I'm working on one now, and I can't wait to get it launched and see how it's received. We've chatted about it a little bit, and we'll talk about it later. So that's kind of the future for you. Where are you at now? So you've got the three apps: the ebook, the course that you're not really selling anymore, and then the blog. And on the blog, have you figured out other ways to monetize it, with advertising or things like that? Or
Yeah, I think advertising, I've tried it a little bit, but never really had that much
success with it?
success from it. I think people are just fed up and tired of looking at adverts on websites, and so they don't
Sure.
really click on them anymore. I know some bigger websites make money like that, but it's not really something that interests me that much. My approach is rather create some useful products myself for my audience, and then sell it to them basically. So the way it's expanded now is I've also added an eShop. So we actually drop ship products. So we sell an iPhone bike mount that's really, really popular with our audience. Or literally we never touch the product. It just goes straight from, I think, Hong Kong to the warehouse, and then the warehouse then ships it out. So it's a fantastic way to earn a decent commission on a product that you really believe in without having to actually organize an entire warehouse and things like that. That's another really clever way of making money online.
Selling actual physical products. Yeah. No, I couldn't agree more.
Definitely,
And if you've got an
definitely.
audience that's, right in that, yeah, that's amazing. That's great. So, and can I ask, Andreas, are you like from a consistent basis now, how many hours do you think you work a week? I know today's kind of a work day for you. We talked about, but are
Yeah.
you working 10, 20, 30? And I know you're traveling, so it can't be that much.
Yeah, so I guess it depends on the definition. So I guess to maintain things where they are now, so to keep the website running and whatnot, and to stay on top of the team of writers and email more than about 6 hours a week. So that's basically the bare minimum that I have to do. Beyond that, it's just working on projects that get me excited, really. So, I mean, it really depends. So, at the moment, I'm working on a new app, so I'm putting in a few more hours. But even then, I wouldn't say I do more than 15 to 20 hours a week maximum.
Right, and you're more kind of quarterbacking or just overseeing, relaying ideas and then watching how it's developed and working with the
Yeah,
developer, right? Yeah.
exactly. So it's not kind of, day-to-day work. It's just really exciting where you find a good developer and you start telling them what you want to achieve with the app and getting people excited and running a team and things like that. All those things are really good fun, and it's freed up my time. So while we've been out here in Honduras, we got the chance to go down in this homemade submarine that this guy had built, and we just descended down to a depth of 1,000 feet and 300 meters, and you see all these incredible creatures under there. And I've done my advanced diving course and things like that. And for me, that's what it's all about with running an online business like this: is you get those incredible experiences that you can do.
Dude, you told me about the submarine thing, which I think is super sketchy to go in a homemade submarine 1,000 feet below. I mean, if something goes wrong, you're dead. But I love it. I probably would have gone
Yeah,
the same.
the
But
two things that were really comforting about that. The first thing was that it was a yellow submarine. So how can you go wrong? And the other thing is that the guy said that he's got enough oxygen and water to keep you alive for 3 days underwater.
yeah, assuming water doesn't get in there.
But no, it was absolutely incredible. I think there's only sort of 3 places in the world where you can do that. But I mean, looking back to when I first started my online business, who would have thought that 3 years later I'd be in a submarine 1,000 feet underwater?
In a homemade submarine. Oh, it's in a yellow homemade submarine. That's great. All right, so can I ask? Like, I know you're working on the app, which has you increased. And I find that a lot. Like a lot of entrepreneurs who've built money pillow style businesses, they they get down like you 4 to 6 hours a week to keep the business running at the current level and potentially even growing. I'm sure the cyclist thing is still growing, and but then it gives them the ability, because of the income, they can use that and leverage into something else that gets them excited and passionate at the moment. And it sounds like for you that's iPhone apps, so that's really cool. And can I ask, Andreas, are you so? And you don't have to answer this if you're not comfortable, but working 6 hours a week from the all the work that you've put in, the stuff that you've built now, does that bring in $3,000 a month, $5,000 a month, $6,000 a month? Like, what's that look like for you?
Yeah, I mean, it will vary, but I would say on average, it's probably around $6,000 a month.
Man, that's incredible. So you're essentially, let's see, 4 weeks in a month, 24 hours, actually a little bit more than 4 weeks.
Yeah.
There's not.
And the most incredible thing is that, I mean, my cost of living out here has just plummeted. I live off maybe $1,200 to $1,400 a month maximum. So it frees up all this extra capital that I can, you put it into your savings, or you can invest in new ideas, or so that's the huge thing for me of doing this whole, the kind of money pillow style business mixed with traveling the world. It's just freed up this, enormous sum of money that I can then invest in ideas that really get me excited.
Oh my God. Yeah. I'm so, sometimes I get jealous of people, and Andres, I can generally say I'm truly jealous being married and having 2 young kids. I don't have that kind of flexibility, but for those that are listening that do, I mean, you're going to look back on this point in your life and never forget it. And you're going to create so many amazing experiences, like the Yellow Submarine, that you'll be on your deathbed and thinking about and remembering, and talking about forever. So, I mean, someone told me one time, it's not about material possessions. It's all about experiences. Those are the things that you never forget, and they live with you for the rest of your life. And I just think it's so cool, man. And then by doing this, you're also saving money, which frees up more capital to invest and build bigger and better things that, in the long run, will take you. When you're like me and you have to settle down with a wife and kids and live in an area, you'll have already built your empire that will be funding that. So
yeah, definitely.
Cool.
Definitely. So yeah, it's just all about trying to get these experiences in where possible, because you just don't know when your life's going to take a turn where you can no longer have that kind of flexibility. So yeah, it's just hugely fun, and I can't imagine doing anything else right now.
Yeah, dude, I'm super impressed.
The ultimate thing is I remember, you often get asked the question, along the lines of, what does an extraordinary life look like for you? We were out with a friend of ours, and he owns this sailing boat, and we were out at sea, and we're just sort of cruising around, looking for waves. And we asked him that question, and he just said, "Yeah, pretty much this. Maybe a larger boat."
Wait, what was the question? What was the question?
He said to him, "What is an extraordinary life like to you? What do you want to get out of the next 5 years in your life?" And he just turned to us and just said, "Yeah, maybe I'd just like to get a bigger boat." So I think that for me just shows someone that's kind of achieved everything that they want to. And I think a big problem that entrepreneurs have, and people like you and me, is we're constantly sort of chasing these new horizons and these new ideas and things like that. Sometimes to take stock, much like in that moment, and just realize that you are in that position that you've been chasing your whole life.
It's so true. It's so true. But you know what? I will say, like, I just spent basically about 5 months doing nothing but surfing. And I began to grow. I mean, I was working maybe an hour a day or 2 at best. And I began to grow a little uneasy at the thought of some of the opportunities I had in my lap. One being like this podcast, which then will lead into the book. And then another one that if I don't take advantage of them now, I probably will look back and go, dude, you probably shouldn't have surfed so much. You probably should take advantage of those opportunities so that later you can surf so much. And then I'm like, but wait a minute, like everything's what am I? Yeah. So yeah, I hear you. It's the inner struggle. But the good news is the way I summed it all up mentally, just so I could cope with it, is I would much rather have these kind of problems than be concerned about getting fired because my boss is an asshole or
Yeah.
coworkers that I can't stand and draw. You know what I mean? Oh, that's just like God. Like I can never complain, never complain.
And I mean, they say that there's a point. I think I think it's some Harvard research that says once you go beyond $72,000 in income, and that means kind of take home income, as in income that you can actually spend on things that you enjoy and whatnot. Then beyond that, money doesn't add any more happiness. So it's all about. I think it's just really important for people to.
I
take
hear
stock of
that,
things.
but I honestly, I didn't read that article. I saw it, and then I've heard many people mention it, but I think it's kind of bullshit a bit because I'm happier now than I've ever been. I'm making a lot more than $72,000 a year, and it affords me a gardener, it affords me a maid. It affords me
It frees up time, right?
It frees up time, which allows me to not only time but mental capacity, because I don't sit around and dread mowing the lawn in 4 days and 3 days and 2 days and today. You know what I mean? I don't have to even think about it, and it just gets done. So now I have more time to spend with my wife and kids, or go surfing, or spend with friends. You know, whatever I want. So I agree with that statement a little bit about the income, but I do think I will be more happier earning $15 million a year than whatever amount. So. But yeah, I hear you. I struggle with that.
I think one of the best things someone told me is that they just hired someone to cook them paleo meals.
Yes.
And that was one of the most amazing things that kind of earning more money allowed them to do, because we all wish we could eat better, but if
we
you
don't
can
take
hire
the time to
someone
learn
come
how
your
to do
house
it
and cook the meals, then
yeah.
So it's an interesting thought nonetheless.
Yeah, I'm sure there is a certain level, but I mean, I do think my happiness is higher now than ever, and I know a lot of it comes from having more freedom. That comes from having more income to hire people that that enjoy mowing the grass and doing things like that for a living, and So anyway, that will be my next goal, is getting somebody to cook me meals.
Yeah, definitely. Because I don't know, it's difficult because you enjoy those things in life, but then there does come a point when you're like, but I would love to have more time for my business.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm just really excited to hear all these podcasts actually, and kind of take in some of the different ways that people have got to this stage where they've got time and they can then just decision.
Oh my God, there's so many good ones. So just in case any of you guys are listening to this after the podcast is launched, we're a week away from launching, and you may be hearing this a year later, but yeah, there's some amazing ones. And one of the ones I will tell you to pay attention to, which I thought Andreas was pretty impressive, was the two Mikes, Mike Hansen and Mike Tecu, and talking about their mobile photo booth studio and how they basically built it from scratch with the intention of having the whole thing systematized. And it's a super inspiring interview, but they went from scratch to $1 million in revenue roughly within a year, somewhere right around a year, and and it's almost completely hands off. It's unbelievable. So
yeah, I've met Mike, and he's got some incredible stories. He's just this character.
Yeah.
Perhaps that's one of the best things that comes out of this kind of you kind of join this rank of people that isn't there people, and you look back at some of your friends that have taken a different route, and different ways to become different people to become happy in different ways. But for me, perhaps the biggest thing of running this online business is just the opportunities through the people and the interesting people that you get to have conversation with that just never would have happened unless I'd made that decision to create my own business.
Oh, I completely agree. I was talking with somebody the other day, and it seems like, I don't know if it's just the particular businesses that you and I are both in, or if it's just entrepreneurship, and when you become more successful, it feels like, I swear it feels like it's easier because you start meeting people who are more and more interesting and intriguing, and you learn more and more from them, and yeah. It's just it really adds to the richness of life. I mean, I really believe, they talk about how, you're the result of your 6 closest friends or
whatever it is. I read that's true. So, building work early on is probably one of the best things you can do.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was just having a conversation with a friend the other day, and he mentioned something that made a monumental shift in a business in literally 30 seconds of our 3-hour conversation.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah. All right, dude. Well, very awesome, man. This has been an awesome interview, and I look forward to getting this out and letting people hear it. Where can people connect with you? Where can they send you a shout out and say, I heard you on the Money Pillow? Awesome interview. What's the best way? Are you on Twitter? Are you Facebook, LinkedIn?
Yeah, if you've got any cyclists in the audience, then they can head over to londoncyclist.co.uk, and I can easily be reached on there through the contact page. So, especially if people have got questions about launching their own apps and things like that, then I'm always happy to help people out.
Oh, that's very cool. And if you are listening to this in a part of the world that Andreas is going to be traveling through in the next few months, which you're in where? You're in Honduras now, is that right?
Honduras.
Yeah, and you're going to be going down to the bottom of the world, going through Chile, I believe, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Why are you laughing? It's true, isn't it?
It's true. It's just such a long, ridiculous journey ahead.
Yeah, and it probably sounds bizarre to hear, but yeah, that's very cool. So, yeah, if you guys are in any of those areas, feel free to reach out to Andreas and connect with him maybe while he's on the road. That'd be very cool. And the site is londoncyclist.co.uk. And if you're listening to this from the podcast on themoneypillow.com, you can go over there and find this interview, and there'll be links to that. And then all of Andreas's other projects, like his iPhone apps and whatnot as well. We'll put them all up on there. So very cool, man. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing what's coming up next with you. You said you're currently working on an app framework. And just real quick, what's the timeline like on that and getting that launched?
Probably in the next 2 weeks, yeah.
Oh, wow. All right. Well, I will update the site there as well. And if for some reason I haven't, and it's several weeks have passed since this happened, be sure to leave me a comment, and I'll come back and do that. And we'll leave a link so people can stay abreast with what you're doing.
Sounds great. Yeah, perfect.
So, very cool, brother. Well, I really appreciate it. And you know what? I did forget to ask you one last question. So I'm going to ask you one last question, and then we'll kind of wrap up with that. Looking back on everything, what is the biggest lesson you learned that you could pass on to somebody who might be facing kind of the same, being in a similar position where they're ready to kind of go a similar route? What is one piece of advice that, looking back on it, you've learned from?
Yeah, definitely. I would say the biggest question to ask yourself is, what are the 2 things that I could talk about, for an entire day and never get bored, and see if you can kind of create a business out of one of those 2 passions. And then after that, it's just a case of getting started, because until you get started, you don't know what opportunities are going to come up. So I think too many people get in that stage where they think, oh yeah, I'd love to start an online business and so forth, and I'm interested in this, but I'm not really sure how it's going to work and how it's going to work out. The important thing is just to get started, and then you'll start discovering the opportunities. Yeah, exactly. I think one of the guys that I'm friends with gave us a bracelet, and it said I think a JFDI, and it's just freaking do it. So it's not to use more aggressive language.
Oh, JFDI, I love it. I want to get a T-shirt printed that says that. I honestly think that is probably the number one things that sets successful people apart from those that aren't so successful, is they take action and they do something, and even if it's not perfect, they get enough encouragement and enough excitement from the results that come from that little action that it motivates them to go further, make things perfect, and then build beyond whatever they did. So
yeah. And do you know what it was for me when I first got started? I just had, I had that holiday coming up in Brazil, and I knew that by the time I got back to my holiday, if I hadn't succeeded, then I'd have to move back home and reconsider and try and look for a job and things like that. So I had this sort of huge incentive that was like, your life's going to be hell, and I had this big deadline, and there was no way I couldn't get it done, because it was just such a huge downside to not doing it. And to be honest, I still use things like that today. Even if I'm feeling a little bit bored and I can't get on with my work, I'll literally dip into my pocket and grab all my money and give it to my friend and say, don't give me this money back unless I've done this set of things, kind of thing. And that gets me hugely productive.
Oh, how cool is that? Very cool, man. Well, congrats to you and all your success, man. I've really enjoyed this interview. And if you're listening to this, be sure to send Andreas a shout out and connect with him, and check out londoncyclist.co.uk. And with that, I thank you for listening. And Andreas, huge thanks for joining us today, man. I really appreciate it.